TO Blaze.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another Kerbal Space Program video. This is another iteration of my Anomaly series where I go out and find anomalies and show you guys what kind of cool Easter eggs Kerbal Space Program has hidden around. There you see my Anomaly flag has a typo. I realized that after I'd already recorded all this footage. Unfortunately, my flag in the game is permanently misspelled. I'm going to maybe try to find the flag file and replace it with a correction. Anomaly has two A's, not two O's, as the name of the video should be correct. But anyway, I'm very excited for this footage. I recorded this just a couple days ago. I haven't done any complicated missions like this in a long time. I'm sort of out of practice. I've been doing flights around Kerbin, the Mun, Minmus, local places where, you know, if there's a mistake, something I forget to do, a design flaw or whatever, it's a lot easier to correct. You can send other vehicles for added fuel. You can swap parts. There's a lot of that sort of flexibility. So leaving Kerbin, going any other places around the system, just adds complexity. You have to time warp a lot. Your planetary alignment is important for your transfer windows, things like that. It just takes longer in the game and in real life to get to those further places. So I'm designing this to be more efficient. I want to, practice all those skills that I haven't been using for a while. So here you see I'm designing the stage of the rocket that's going to get me off of the surface of Duna. I know I need roughly 1,500 meters per second to get off the surface and circularize around Duna. The stage above that, I was shooting for about 510 meters per second to return to Kerbin, and then 1,200 meters per second to fly around Duna in orbit and do some other fun stuff we'll talk about later in the video. Um, so yeah, that's the logic behind the design so far. I know I need some parachutes. I want to save fuel while slowing down. You're going to need engine power at Duna to slow down all the way. Parachutes typically don't slow you down quite enough. I guess it kind of depends on the mass of what you're sending and how many parachutes and so forth. But I know with this rocket, I'm going to need those parachutes. So I'm sending an engineer to repack them so that I can also use the parachutes when I get back to Kerbin. You can also see I've used some structural tubes on the design below the first and second stage to kind of cover the engines and allow me to like attach ports. I kind of wish they'd let you attach ports to the what are they called, the structural tubes that the game attaches to the engines automatically for you. I forget what they're called, but you can't attach things to them typically. So use structural tubes in their place sometimes just for that. I debated adding a rover or a helicopter or something on top of the nose cone. You might have seen a second ago. I was playing around with that. I decided not to. So again, we're gonna repack the parachute so I can technically fly around a couple times on Duna if I can't pinpoint my landing zone. So not the most efficient ascent here. I try to be efficient, but sometimes can do a better job. But I'm all for showing you my mistakes and just showing you how I play. So it got me into orbit with plenty of delta V. So went ahead and staged that lower section, and now we're going to use our transfer stage. And there you saw I had to time warp to get Duna in the right transfer window. I'm using the maneuver planner for this portion of the mission just because it's available. The maneuver planner is very, very handy, very helpful. Sometimes it's not the most efficient. Sometimes it's even not super accurate, but it gets the job done. So I feel like a lot of players are going to use it, so I wanted to use it for this video. So I'm choosing to circularize at Duna because I need to use CurbNet. I'm going to try to locate the anomaly that I'm looking for the old-fashioned way. I know where I'm looking because I have the coordinates. You can search online for the coordinates of things, and I did actually find the little question mark there. I got lucky and located the anomaly the old-fashioned way. So went ahead and dropped the waypoint at that question mark, and we're going to go ahead and check it out. I know it's the correct anomaly because I know the coordinates, right? We're looking for 2 degrees, 14 minutes south, 5 degrees, 11 minutes west. And if you're in orbit of Duna, you use the CurbNet. You can locate that exact point on the surface. You can drop a waypoint, and you can go and find this thing that we're about to go down and see. So this took me 2 attempts. I had obviously had quick saved, and then I loaded the quick save. The first time, I just didn't land quite close enough, and I thought, no, I can do better than that. So I'm going to go ahead and try again. This is what you see the second attempt. And if I had there are mods, obviously. I think it's MechJeb, or maybe it's a different one that like projects onto the surface where your landing is going to be based on your current trajectory and the where you're at in the atmosphere and all those factors. I don't have those mods, so I'm just really eyeballing this, and I got relatively close, I would say. And I'm using the first-person view. Sometimes I like to use the radar altitude so that I can really feather in my approach and not come in too fast or burn too much fuel coming in too slow. So went ahead and packed my parachutes, repacked them, and set them to an action group. So now I can just do a quick little hop, use a little bit of fuel, and get me much closer to the that surface feature over there. I can see it. Also, with my first attempt, I didn't land close enough, and I spent way too much EVA fuel on my little Kerbonaut, which you see here I'm going to be doing. So what I probably should have done, I often overlook this entirely. I could have just brought extra EVA propellant and gotten rid of those little parachutes that each of the crew members have, but I forgot to do that. So here you see the Anomaly. I meant to do some research on exactly which NASA mission to Mars this is based off of. I'm going to take a wild guess and say Perseverance. I just know it's one of the earlier, smaller rovers, right? Obviously, this isn't like the Volkswagen style or the size rovers that we've sent more recently. I think this must be one of the first ones. So I don't want to misspeak. I don't know which exact rover this was meant to be. Somebody's probably going to call me out in the comments, and you guys can check that out. You can also go and read the wiki, and it'll tell you all about it. I spent a little time looking at the vehicle. I thought it was really cool, the amount of detail that the game put onto that Anomaly. So I'm going to go ahead and leave Kerpen. I'm planting my flag. That's about the only thing I plan to leave behind in all of these missions is the little flag next to each Anomaly. And I'm pretty happy so far with the design of the rocket. I've gotten most of the way to orbit. Finally staged those little fuel tanks with the landing legs. I don't need the landing legs anymore. And yeah, I mentioned earlier I added some extra fuel, and that's because we're gonna go to Ike now. Ike has an Anomaly as well that's guaranteed to be in the same place, I think, in every playthrough. So we're gonna go and check it out. I didn't think it was quite interesting enough to justify its own video, and because we're already here at Duna, I'm gonna go ahead and include it just for funsies as lagniappe for you guys, and we're gonna go check it out. So the transfer to Ike is very easy. You can't go pretty high around Duna's orbit without getting a transfer to Ike. As a matter of fact, you can't put anything in stationary orbit around Duna without Ike swallowing it up at some point. So simple little easy hop over to Ike. Ike's gravity is relatively low, so I think you might have seen earlier in the vehicle assembly I put some little hinges with some frictional pads on the bottom of this rocket so I can land on the surface of Ike when I get down there. Unfortunately, on this class I did not detect an anomaly, but again, I know the coordinates, so I'm going to go ahead and place a waypoint, and I'm going to do my best to land right near that. So the coordinates for this anomaly are going to be 11 degrees 23 minutes south, 27 degrees 19 minutes east. Again, you can find all of that stuff online in the KSP wiki. What else do I want to say about this? This was my second attempt at landing on Ike. I did quick save before my first attempt, thankfully, and I just came in a little too fast. Sometimes I'm time warping and I fat finger the keyboard and don't slow down fast enough, and I think I just smashed into the surface. And also, I really wasn't super happy with my approach trajectory, so I did kind of improve my trajectory and obviously survived this attempt. So I'm looking around on the surface for a little blemish, and there it is, not too far away. Ike is a pretty small moon, so a small celestial body, so a degree here and there, it's really not a far distance to travel. And an EVA pack on Ike is much more manageable than on places like Duna. So, and here you see the Anomaly. It's a magic boulder, probably an asteroid. I'm sure you can find on the wiki exactly why they chose this Anomaly and placed it here. It's kind of not necessarily the purpose of these videos. I just want to show you guys the cool things that there are out there, and if you're interested, you can go and find it yourself and do some more reading about it. For me, it's all the fun is all in locating them in the first place, using the curb net and that sort of thing. I'm still relatively new to using the curb net. I've played for so many hours in this game without ever touching it, and now I can't imagine not using it in like a career mode, especially if you're trying to hit all the biomes, collect all the science, do all that stuff. The curb net seems like a very useful tool for finding your way. So there you see, that's what the rest of that extra fuel was for. I think I mentioned 1,200 meters per second. That was to get to and from Ike. And here I'm kind of worried I was about to hit the surface there. So we're going to get into orbit. Unfortunately, my periapsis is a little higher than it needs to be, but no big deal. So about a minute 40 left in the video, I get to explain the complexity of the return. So I don't get to use the maneuver node planner on my return because I am in orbit of Ike, not Duna. I believe the maneuver node planner wants me to be in low Duna orbit in order to calculate my return. So it can't calculate the return because I'm not in the orbit of Duna right now. I'm orbiting Ike. So I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. This used to be the way it had to be done back before the maneuver node planner was implemented in stock KSP. Basically, I had to use transfer window maps and delta V maps to plan your trips around the system, right? So right now, I know that I need Kerbin to be roughly 45 degrees, more like 40 degrees behind Duna. And then I know I need to burn retrograde in direction of Duna, which is around 10 o'clock. If Duna's heading is 12 o'clock, like looking up bird's eye view above, I need to start my burn around 10 o'clock. So I'm setting a maneuver node there at 10 o'clock each time I get to around that point in my orbit of Duna. And I did it a few times until finally I got an approach. What would you call it? A rendezvous with Kerbin. So that's about it for the video. I was very, very, very excited that I managed to get back to Kerbin with a little bit of fuel that I had left. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I've got a few more really cool Easter eggs that I want to go out and find. Appreciate you for tuning in. Please, as always, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and I hope to see you guys in a video again very, very soon.